Are you ready for the theory of everything? Here it goes. So everybody's noticing there's something up with the sun. It's intensely bright and very hot, which means the frequencies are changing. They are getting faster. Now, someone did an experiment where they're trying to burn different colored objects with a magnifying glass, and then they tried to burn a white piece of paper and it wouldn't burn. The white light is all the colors of the spectrum. And if you were to take like a blue laser and try to burn something blue, you can't do it because they share the same frequency. But if you take white light and you try to burn different things of different colors, whatever cancels out is not going to burn. If it's blue, the blue will not be able to burn it, but the other colors will be. So in the white spectrum, it's not going to be able to burn anything that's white. Now, someone did a video of that. I'm not sure if it's absolutely true or not. You can check on it. But I want to point out that the reason why the sun is speeding up right now is because the frequencies are speeding up, because we are returning to a Christed state consciously and also in our cosmic structure. At the center of this world in which we live is the 0 point source of creation. That is the monopolar God of monotheism. It is not a man in a robe. It is not a personified thing. And this 0 point source of creation is what creates all of the mansions, the many mansions or the many worlds and realities of creation. Scientists will tell you that the universe structure is a torus field within a torus field within a torus field. I've shown you what a torus field is, the two opposing fields with the plane of inertia running through the center. We are occupying the plane of inertia, which is a valley of the shadow of death. We are projections that are experiencing this world as avatars. And the sun and the moon are projections of light as well, shining upon different mediums. The moon could possibly very well be a plasma reflection, like a photographic image of the actual disk. But I'm focusing on, so to speak, the sun. And the sun is basically Lucifer. It is the light bearer in this world. It is a fallen angel because it is a fallen angle of light to a lower frequency. As the 0 point source of creation shines up through it, projecting light up through the prism of the torus field, it separates everything out, and the sun is vibrating at its own frequency and giving light to all things on this planet or this plane. And that is the God of this world, according to the rulers of the world that worship the sun as their God. And if you don't think that's true, go and look at some of the symbols that are used by the Vatican. In order for them to make people, keep them from understanding the inner sun, which is the source of creation, they've kept this distraction up whereby they make people worship not the sun anymore, because that was considered paganism, right? So now what they did was they took the teachings of Yeshua, which were about the inner sun, the inner Christ, and they turned it into worship of him and his personality, which is also paganism. So that is how they continually have kept people from actually doing the work to get out of the matrix. Because once you have woken up consciously to the fact that that is what you are source having a material experience in this realm, then you can find your way back out. And the way that you do that is that you have a seed of consciousness within you, a Christ seed. That Christos seed has to be nourished so that you can create and build your actual soul, so that you can return to the higher realms, because this realm is not one of the higher realms. And we incarnate here because we've become attached to this world, to the material realm, because that is what is perpetuated by the people who control this world. And they could be called minions, they could be called legion, whatever you want to call them. They want to rule in this world because they cannot get out. They've dug themselves a deep hole, so to speak. So legion is the people or beings or souls or spirits. They don't really have a soul. So they are the eyes, the personalities, which are false constructs that exist and keep incarnating. It's an attachment to the personality, the identity, and we want to avoid that and go to our higher consciousness, which is just the I am that I am. That's what Jesus said, right? And Buddha says this as well. There is no self, egolessness. See, it's all the same thing. They're teaching you self-actualization so that you can free yourself from this prison that we're in, prism, and climb out of the matrix and make it to the next kingdom or the next world, whatever you want to call it. God has many mansions, right? And this is talking about the torus field within the torus field within the torus field. It's infinite, and the plane extends infinitely as well. So here we are, and the way out is through our own soul creation. While we're here in this body, we have to do the work. But let's say that because we are where we are now in the timeline or this cycle, we have an upswing cycle where we're returning to the Bronze Age, and we've left the Iron Age of darkness and ignorance. So now perhaps the world is moving into a higher vibratory state, and we are influenced by that so that there is no more suffering like there used to be on this plane, and the sun and the moon become monopolar, whereas they would actually go away completely, because remember, they're projections. So there would only be one light, which would be Polaris, directed straight above us, which would be the light of the Lord, so to speak. And the world would return to its balance again, or its Christed state. Perhaps that is what's happening now. So obviously the sun would be heating up, vibrating faster and faster, and this would be the meaning of, burning in the fires of Christ, or being cast into the lake of fire and things like that. It doesn't necessarily mean that we as human beings, our flesh will be burned alive or anything like that, but perhaps we are changing at the DNA level to where we will not experience being physically burned because of this consciousness shift. Now, some people say that it has to do with your skin color, and that only the people with dark skin are going to survive this shift, and that people with white skin are going to be burned alive and things like that. Now, I don't know. I can't say that I know. But I do know that it is a consciousness shift, and that you can strengthen your Merkaba energy field, which is your vessel, your actual soul body. That's the whole point of raising chrism, is feeding that seed, that Christ seed, so that you generate a stronger electromagnetic field, which is in your heart, not your brain. And if that's really what's going on, then your flesh doesn't even matter at that point. It's never been about your flesh anyway. It's been about your consciousness field. So if you're someone that is afraid of dying on the earth and worried that you don't have dark skin, or if you're someone that's like, oh, I'm better than you because I have dark skin, you're in for a big surprise, because it doesn't matter. This is a consciousness shift. And so if you do survive because you do have dark skin, and you survive in this world, just remember, this world is still a material plane, and it's only one level of the game of life, and there are other levels. And so some people will be going to higher levels of existence, vibrating at completely different frequencies, and they're no longer in this material plane. Some people will choose to stay in the material plane. So there is no right or wrong choice, unless you say right and wrong have to do with whether or not you are lucid, and whether or not you have done harm or intend to do harm, and that sort of thing. But that's the only definition of right and wrong at this point now in our journey. People who are still trapped in the polarity mindset, arguing about which president is going to win and all that stuff, they're not going to make it if they don't stop right now. You have got to stop that mindset. Stop arguing about that. Stop worshiping people outside of you as your savior, because that's not where this is going. And anyone that continues to do that is creating a lesser reality that they will be attracted to and have to repeat all over again. You're not going to go to the higher realms if you continue to do that. Where does this leave God and Jesus Christ when we're talking about sexual alchemy? Where does God and Jesus fit into this? I'm going to tell you. Now, when people think about sex, they think about sex as they know it. Two people coming together and pleasing one another. to the point of orgasm. But that's the opposite of what we're talking about when we're saying sexual alchemy is the key to Eden, entering back into Eden. It's resisting the temptation after the polar energies uniting come together, right? That magnetic attraction, resisting the urge to blow a fuse or release the energy in orgasm. That is what they're talking about. It is that the resistance of the temptation of that energy. And we are resistors. A resistor limits the energy in a circuit. How do they put that? It limits the current flow in electrical circuits. And that's what we are. We are electrical circuits, and the mind and the heart is the resistor. And what do they call that? Now, don't you find this fascinating that the guy that came up with all this stuff, right? Some physicist, some scientist, his last name was Ohm. Now, he has a 3-part name, Stephen something, Ohm, whatever. But I believe these people, these scientists are all in part of this club where they know this stuff. They know Ohm is a sound that the universe makes, and it is the resistance. It is the 0 point that holds everything together. As the energy increases exponentially, everything is brought back to the center and stabilized between these two polar opposite energies coming together. That's your 0 point, and then you have your plane of inertia, and that is your torus field and the material plane upon which we walk. They know all this stuff. It's Gnostic. It's esoteric wisdom, knowledge that these people have, and the average person does not have. And this is what I'm talking about. I'm trying to share this information with as many people as I can that are interested in this path and want to pursue it as a master, as an initiate to become a master. So back to the question, where does God and Jesus play into this? Yeshua Christos means I am sustained in the oils or the fluids of the body, which are the fluids of the body, which are the chrism, when you are in a state of harmonic resonance, that 0 point. That means your heart is managing the show. It's the ruler. You can't have 2 masters. You can only have 1 master, right? Your heart is 1 master, and your reptilian brain function is the other master that wants to be the master because it wants to take you through this material world and navigate through it, and it wants to control everything, and it wants to be special, okay? But it causes some problems. So it learns that it can't micromanage everything. But see, that's what the demiurge of this world is. It's the aspect of consciousness that wants to try to control everything within us. It is in our consciousness field. It is our brain function. And that was the meaning of get thee behind me, Satan, because that animal nature, that lower vibe, need to control everything to feel safe, is what Satan is. Satan is the opposer to the other master, which is the heart. So God is the highest aspect of creation, the omnipresent mind of creation. That would be your heart. Your heart has its own mind. It has the biggest electromagnetic field of the body. The electromagnetic field, it stores information. It is a consciousness field. It may not be a brain like the one in our head, but it is a brain. Their brain comes from membrane, and your body's just a bunch of membranes storing information from your cells to the brain in your head to your heart. A woman must retain the sexual act and withdraw from the man before orgasm in order to avoid the loss of her seminal fluid. This is how the Kundalini awakens in the woman, just as it does in the man. Masculine magnetism, when mixed with feminine magnetism, starts the awakening of the sacred fires of woman in woman. Woman must cultivate beauty, music, and love. Let us awaken within ourselves the esoteric majesty of our interior beauty. Allow me to affirm the majesty of our being. I am a solitary tree. I am the tree of life. Now, if we go back a couple pages, it's talking about the lunar atoms and the difference between trying to awaken Kundalini without this restraint of the mind, and giving into temptation. That leads you to demonic Kundalini and Kunda buffer. If we waste solar atoms, we will then have no capital in order to make an atomic combination which permits the awakening of the Kundalini by means of sexual magic. The Kundalini is of an absolutely sexual nature, and it is only possible to awaken it by means of sexual alchemy. So the practitioner, someone who calls himself a yogi, is practicing Kundalini, but still engages in sex and ejaculates, and then loses all of the fire, right? So the 33 chambers of the spinal column of this mystic, of the example, are filled with darkness because the fire has never been passed through them. If you want to return to Eden, you must go through sexual alchemy and refrain from orgasm. INRI written over the cross, right? Ignis natura renovatur integra. The fire renews nature incessantly. That is what they're talking about. The Christ mind is formed within your mental body. The Christ mind is pure, transmuted semen. The Christ mind is the result of sexual magic. There are those who claim to be raising their Kundalini and becoming ascended beings, and they are liars. They are led astray and leading others astray, because if you do not practice sexual restraint, sexual alchemy, you do not enter into the kingdom.